Welcome back, sports fans. Moving the Needle podcast. If you're tuning on YouTube, thanks so much. And if you're not subscribed, please do. We've noticed that, quite a high percentage of you guys are watching the video, commenting, but you aren't subscribed. Now, speaking of YouTube viral, this man that I have here coming onto your screen is a multiple world champion. He has easily one of the most famous, almost famous downhill runs in history. I was there on site. It was ridiculous. We will actually have to go back in time a bit. Multiple World Cup winner. And we are going to dig into what was quite an interesting season for him in 2024. And he's got some exciting news he's going to drop for 2025. But you're not here to listen to me. It is none other than Danny Hart. I'm quite excited and nervous for this catch-up.
It's going to be good, Needles. You have a really good memory of lots of things that I've forgotten about from when we were teammates. So you're probably going to go over a few old stories that I've forgotten about, and you seem to remember quite vividly. So let's go for it.
Yeah, but is it that you've forgotten them or chosen to just block them out of your memory, you know? Because you are younger than me, so you shouldn't have a worse memory than I.
No, I just take each day at a time, and I've forgotten them, I think. Other people seem to remember all these crazy stories, and yeah, not me. I remember lots of stupid things, I guess, from all of my life, but you have some more vivid story. You remember stories much more vividly than I do.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but I mean, I guess I should forget more since I probably had more concussions while I was your teammate than you've had in your whole career.
Yeah, you had a couple of headaches there.
Well, not from a hangover. Remember that time? I've told it on many a podcast. We don't have to tell the full story. But when I rode with Pastrana and then banged my head, huge concussion, and you had to remind me my results at Mount St. Anne, but I wouldn't believe you because the qualifying or something was really good. And I was like, yeah, you're lying. You're just having me on.
There you go. I can't even remember that one. But I do remember the time that you needed a fill-in or something and you lost a tooth in Sea Otter, was it? Do you remember that one?
Yes. Yeah. I got a tooth pulled or an infection at Sea Otter. And then I'd still try to stubbornly race after a day in the chair. And I knocked myself out on the tarmac of that stupid race.
But this was another one of those things where you and your teammate, our teammate at the time, Duncan, you wouldn't wear the good Fox helmet, so you had the cheap, crappy one on that you wouldn't have wanted to have fallen off the curb in, where I wore the proper one and didn't suffer from any concussions, didn't care which direction my stickers were facing on my helmet, or I remember you and Duncan sitting in your hotel rooms putting your stickers on your visors or your peak, and I'm just like, what the hell are these guys doing? Remember that?
Yeah, but I had the neck brace, so I don't think the motor helmet worked with the neck brace. So I sacrificed my head for my neck, I guess. But you're right. Duncan was particular. We liked to look good. We had the Vans shoes, the tall socks.
You did.
But that's
kind of what I were always butthurt because you didn't have the blue shoes that Duncan used.
No, I didn't want the
have.
blue shoes. Bullshit.
Oh,
I not a chance I wanted them blue shoes. Those were clown shoes. I wanted the white ones. Those are good times, those. Good times when we... What was that like for you, though? Because obviously we were a little bit older and I knew Duncan prior, but you were on the team with him before me. And then we kind of came onto the same team. I stayed at his house a bit. And
a bit? You lived in paradise, as he used to call it. And I was like, you can just do one, mate. And,
have you been to Santa Barbara? It's not that bad.
I have, yeah. It's not bad, but be humble. I just don't think that word was in Duncan's vocabulary. So so when I signed with Giant, it was 2010. I come off Lapierre and I didn't have anything, to be fair. So Giant sort of got me out of a hole there. So I went to Giant with Jared, Rando and Duncan in 2010 as this kid. And then so I could tell that they thought they were, well, not Jared, But Duncan always thought he was far superior, and I don't think he beat me once. So, and then they signed you, and you were like best friends with Duncan and Bryn and all of these guys, and I'm just like, it's like you and him and me. So I just used to butt heads with him all the time. I remember one time we were in Port Angeles, and I think we had to drive past the venue to go to the supermarket or to the coffee shop so he could get his coffee. And I didn't drink coffee at the time, so I'm like, what the hell are we even doing? We've just drove past the track. I want to get in there, get my shoes on and go and ride. And you need to get your caffeine hit. I was fuming. And then you joined the equation, and it just made it so much worse for me. I was just doing my own thing. And in fact, that weekend in Port Angeles, I think we went 1, 2, 3. I was first. I don't know where you.
Oh, so your memory's pretty good when you're at the top. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he actually moved down up there or wherever it is from where he lived to try and get better in the mud. And then he lived in Bellingham, I remember, because whatever Duncan did was all that mattered. So he and me, you and him went 1, 2, 3 at that national. It was really cool.
Yeah, but I think we got on near the end. Like, I think I was rocking a hard place because I obviously knew him from before. And then I guess, you're the younger upstart kid. So there's always going to be a bit of banter and bullying, like how guys get on, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's clearly how we get on. We're still ribbing each other now, And I think from what I remember, I was a bit rocking a hard place because I was, starting to get on with you, and I get on with him. And I think the American culture and the English. Yeah, and it's an American culture as well as like an English culture. Then you got the South African culture, and I kind of relate to the banter of English, but I know him well, And then you've got race results and all these things. You throw those all in the mix. Like, as much as people want to say, like, especially going forward, which we're not going to jump there yet, but like it's becoming quite a team thing and team points. And I'm like, this is such an individual sport. Like, at the end of the day, as we found out, like, you come from the motocross background, so you probably were subconsciously brought up to like beat your teammate first, because then you're performing, you're on the same bike, same equipment. Something's going right if you can beat your teammate. At least you've got that covered, right?
Yeah. But yeah, there was some times there where that was some challenging times. But and then when it's like sounds quite harsh, but when he left the team, and we had some really good memories after that, like staying in America and what have you, and yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, like I think I do come from like a motorsport style background where the sort of first person you want to be is your teammate. And as I've gotten older, it's not so much left me, but it's like not as prevalent, if you like.
Yeah, so have you reflected on that? Because I didn't come from the moto background nor the BMX. So it wasn't quite drilled into me. I understand where it comes from, and it's not wrong or right, but it does seem like with age, like we've bonded as you've sort of grown up on the race circuit. You've grown up on the road, you've been through stuff together, from personal stuff that happens at home while you're on the road, like who you're going to speak to, hopefully a teammate a little bit.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was it a conscious thing? Was it just coming of age and it naturally sort of moved itself out from like your strategy?
I don't know really. Like over the years, like you can learn to like use your teammates more, I guess, and work together. But because I've always sort of travelled with, like I said, it's not always, as I've gotten older in the sport, I've travelled with my wife, and then lately with my wife and my kids. So I always have them as my support team. So maybe I'm a little bit different for that. Like, and I always have those around me. But moving forward, things are going to be different. And like, yeah, like I think it's going to be important to get on really well with your teammates and have a good dynamic. But yeah, it's been tricky for me, I guess, over the years, because I've always travelled with my wife and kids, and that's a big support crew of mine. Which, being in Europe and racing the World Cups all around Europe, it's a much easier for me to do. I think for someone like yourself who was coming over for potentially 6 months or 3 months at a time, you needed that people around you more, like on teammates and stuff like that. Whereas for me, I have my family.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you've brought that up. I mean, I did need to get on with my teammate and wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I don't go home in between the race. I go, say, Duncan's like, stay at my house. We can train together. I've done it with Brendan as well. Like, you're right. Like, I needed a family away from family, but you had the family at the race and you can go home and reset that way. So it is like an interesting dynamic. But I think it just comes with age. And it worked for you back then as well. Like, that was your sort of secret weapon, if you will. Like, you know, you're competitive, you're going to beat your teammate, you're there to win races, you're there to get as good as you can. Like, it definitely worked. And you had your mechanic as well, Shape, sadly, the late Dave Garland during some of those years. Like, you guys had this bond and you guys were a team unit.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, my mechanics when I was younger, like with Giant, well, my mechanic with Dave, when Dave was my mechanic, like, we were like really good friends and we would mess around and fight and call each other this and call each other that. Like, the Americans didn't really get it. Like, I would call Dave every name under the sun in a joking manner, and the Americans at Giant would like look at each other like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, we're just messing around. And it's like the sarcasm and all of that, like the British humour they seem to struggle with quite a lot. But it was always just a laugh, and we would fight and give each other, like, yeah, it was just, I remember one time, like, we'd call it like, I think a bungle rescue or something, where he would just come and rugby tackle you. And I rugby tackled him in between two beds in a hotel, and like, till the day passed, sadly, like, had a jaw that used to click like crazy because it got a bit rough one time, and yeah, it was such good times traveling.
Yeah, I mean, it's so sad. He was just an amazing figure of the sport, Dave Garland. But you were young, so these mechanics, say at Dave, were also a father figure. You know, the experience in the race circuit. I remember him. I mean, he was helping you set the bike up. He was helping you think about things like spoke tension, which you might not even think about to this day. But Dave was there sort of guiding you in these elite ranks.
Yeah, I remember conversations he'd have with like team managers and people ordering the parts, and he would want like 6 sets of wheels just hung from the tent ready to go for all eventualities. And they would look at him like, we don't have enough parts for this. We don't have the budget for this. And he was like, well, in the way he was, it needs to be done, and that's that. And so make it happen. And he did. He had maybe 6 is pushing it, but it might not be, to be fair. He had lots and lots of parts ready to go. And even though we weren't working together all of my career, he was, a lot of it, he was always there in the background when I needed him. And like over the past few years, it would have been good to have him. Like, we had our moments. I think, unfortunately, when Dave passed, we weren't really talking. But like, I have lots of pictures and the memories that I have. And what's sad to me is obviously Dave is passed, and like the knowledge that Dave had that's left this planet is just, it's really quite, yeah, it's gutting, to be fair. And the passion he had was just second to none.
It's a sad irony. Yeah, I didn't think about that. The knowledge that he's taken with him. I mean, it's just such a sad story. He was always amazing. I mean, helped me as well. Like, just coming over and hearing what you guys are working on. And he would always offer advice my side. And he's like that far, you know, like I remember butting heads with my dad when I was about 17. You probably know similar feelings. When you're like, you know, for F's sakes, like, you think you know everything at that age, right? And then eventually you get a bit older, you go, shit, he was right a lot of the time. And that was Dave.
Yeah.
Besides besides the time we decided we need to let loose a little bit in Leger because it's been a long season and we were doing well, I think. And we rode our bikes every day, rain come pouring rain. There wasn't, I was going to say rain come shine or whatever. No, it just rained for a week straight. We ran out of brake pads. We ran out of kit, but we rode because Danny Hart doesn't miss a day. And if Danny doesn't miss a day, poor Andrew didn't miss a day. But we also, checked in the local bars here and there. We played a bit of darts. We had a bit of fun. Now, those rumors got around the race circuit, or it got back to Dave. Dave chewed you out so bad and chewed me out that we're not professional. What are we doing? And we had some of our best results, I think, at Wyndham that week, right? You must have been on the podium, yeah. And Dave went and had a few beers to celebrate Danny's result after the race. And Danny and Andrew went home because there was another race. We didn't party. And Dave had an accident when he borrowed someone else's bike in the pits and went to hospital. And we had a big scare. He had a huge
a couple
crash.
Of times, I think. Yeah, he tried to use
in the parking lot.
Fold-up table, like a cheese wedge jump. And something happened, and I'm pretty sure he broke his collarbone. And then
and he went to hospital with like a concussion.
Did he go in he never got airlifted, did he? I don't remember.
I don't think airlifted, but we got quite a scary phone call back at the condo.
Yeah. When he went for it, he liked to rave, he liked to dance. He loved to dance. He would just you'd see his track around the dance floor. I think that's the days of the illegal raves back here. And he liked to drink. And he could get physical. I remember on Madison, we must have had a Fiat 500 rental car or something, a tiny little car. And he was in the back with Matt Walker and Alex Marin, our teammate from Giant as well. And he just started laying into Alex Marin, just fighting with him. But he was really short, Dave, wasn't he? And really quite stocky. And I don't think he knew his own strength. And Alex was taking a beating in the back of this car because Dave was on the wine or the Prosecco, whatever it was. And poor Alex took one for the team.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace. I mean, but I guess you're getting a bit older now, so you've still got years ahead of you, but you can start reflecting on, think about what we've spoken about. Not many results so far, but the stories, the memories, the sort of friendships you make. It's pretty a unique thing, eh?
Yeah, Dave was so passionate, he wouldn't think twice about, I think we went to Val di Sol, pre-rode the track there one time, and it rained and it was horrible, and we had to we didn't hire, the organisers there gave us one of their vans, and we went there, and we went to numerous places. He used to love going to San Remo. It was the bane of my life. I hated it, but it was, and now to this day I know is one of the best places to go for testing your bike. Because if you can get your bike good down there, then you're pretty much sorted for most places. But he used to love it, and run after run after run after run, and it gets dodgy. But yeah, there were some good times.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember how much you rode your bike and tested. That is the famous one you forget that you didn't want me to test on the same day as you, but you've now just blocked that out of your memory. But you know what we'll chalk it up to? Maybe it was Dave's decision. He wanted you all to himself to do his little spoke tensions on his wheels and check it out. So I won't blame you.
Probably
let's let bygones be bygones.
You'd done quite well in Val di Sol as well, hadn't you? Probably the year or two previous, so we didn't want you getting any edge on us.
Why didn't you let me come? I would have shown you some lines. That must be, I think Val di Sol could be the crappiest place to ride and test away from a race. It didn't help me. I just hated it.
The one thing, I've gone there quite a lot of times Well, even over the past few years, me and the family, would go park up in the car park for a couple of days, probably get 2 or 3 days riding. And it was always good because the first day riding there, you're like, how the hell am I going to find any feeling down this track as to flow or like remotely enjoy it? So I always think if that was my first day at the World Cup and I had those thoughts in my mind, it's always worth going to get rid of those thoughts, because after 4 or 5 runs down there, you have pieced it together and you can somewhat enjoy it. And like I said, if I had that feeling the first day of practice at a World Cup now where you literally get 2 hours free practice and then it's time practice, and I always want to try and do well in time practice. So that sort of is still practice time training, but like it's different. So you have 2 hours to try and figure it out. And if I hadn't pre-ridden the track 2-3 weeks before, I would just want to get in the back of my camper and just go crazy. But that's all gone when I've done the pre-riding.
How many laps have you done down Fort William away from the race?
Oh yeah, lots. Yeah.
You are
Quite
the king of Fort William.
I
have to respect that, to be honest. But you've been there for days and months on end, I reckon.
I went to Fort William this year after the World Cup and after all the racing had done, right before we went to Mont Saint Anne, because there's nowhere in this country where I can get any sort of speed or any sort of feeling that I'm going to have in Mont Saint Anne. So me and my old mechanic Scott Mears went up there and we had 2 bluebird, brilliant weather, awesome days riding at Fort William, and it was really good. Like, Nevis Range put us up in their hotel, 2 awesome days riding, and I really enjoyed it. Got the timing out, pushed hard for it's a 4 minute, well, between a 4 and a 5 minute track when you're just like riding it like that. And what better preparation than riding a 4 to 5 minute track before you go across the other side of the world to ride a 4 to 5 minute track. And it's Sophia that pushes me to do it. She's like, well, what good is it riding at Hamsterley when it's a minute and a half long, or Dovey, or this or that? And I'm like, I come home and in fact, before I go, excuse me, I'm looking for all these excuses as to why I can't go. Like, oh, I haven't got enough wheels, or I haven't got enough parts, or I haven't got this. And then like, I know deep down I should really just get in the car and go. And I come home and I'm like, yeah, fair play, Sophia. Like, it was a good idea.
I have to tell you about AG1. You are probably not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and you know it. I've always taken my health seriously during my racing days and even now, but I often miss the mark on nutrition, especially when I'm traveling or busy. AG1 makes the best daily foundational nutrition supplement that I have ever found. 1 scoop of AG1 contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including multivitamins, prebiotics, probiotics, and more, all of which work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet and increase energy and focus. They also aid with digestion and support a healthy immune system, all without the need to take multiple products or pills. I seriously look forward to in the morning. It takes all of 60 seconds to mix and drink. Best of all, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you're skeptical or not sure, you can just buy it and try it for 3 full months. And if you don't like it for any reason, they will give your money back. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Right now, try AG1 and get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/moving the needle. That's a $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle, or by going to the link in the show notes below. I have a question. Obviously, we're having a great time back and forth. I'm a pro. I made my notes. But one of my questions was, do you think Danny Hart is misunderstood because you are always like, when it's muddy, he's going to do well. When it's technical, he's going to do well. When it's not, like, you've got this amazing skill set on a bike. Do you think people underestimate the preparation you've just spoken about and the training and work you've put in to get to where you are? I don't think people realize how much Danny Hart sacrifices, how much preparation you put in.
I think the whole Fort William thing has been a stigma that I've had over the years, and everybody likes to jump on the bandwagon as if they're all high and mighty, that they don't do it and this and that. And for me, that is more of it's actually a preparation for my year coming up as it is for that race. But people just like to be cool and you know what I mean, like, oh, as if you've been here practicing, yada, yada, yada. It's like, whatever, I enjoy it or I wouldn't do it. I work hard. Like, I've never, like, last off-season was the first time I've gone to New Zealand. And that's one regret that I potentially have, is not doing that more often. Because I stick in, I ride here in the mud and the rain and the horrible weather. And potentially that is why I've had some good results in the mud. But like, that whole, oh, it's raining, today's for you, like, does get a little old. Because my second World Championships that I won in Val d'Isole, it was like moon dust, one of the driest races I've done, and I won. And then against that also, like, Loudenville this year, it rained like crazy. I didn't let it bother me. I was having a really good ride. I crashed and still had a decent result. So it is a thing, I guess, but like, that only comes with hard work and not shying away from the mud. Like you just said when we were in the J, it's so easy to say, oh, it's raining, let's go to the gym and do whatever. But like, the actual riding in that mud and the horrible conditions is like awesome. I love it. Yes, you've got to be prepared. Like this year we were in Morzine and it was absolutely pouring down. The night before I knew it was going to be crappy and horrible, so I got all my rain gear out, prepped goggles, had 3 sets of gloves, had everything in my pockets, and Sophia came with some clean goggles. I actually only had 1 lap to do left, so I was like, I'm not going to put clean goggles on because I've got 1 run, I'll make it work. But like, we're so prepared when them things happen. Like, I see people going out riding in the mud and the crap, and they won't even put a set of rain pants on because, oh, they're a little bit uncomfortable. But okay then, in 10 seconds of leaving the top of a track, you're going to be soaked and cold all day long, and your day will be cut short. Sometimes you have to like be uncomfortable to be comfortable, and I love riding in the mud because I'm prepared every time and I know what I need to do, what I need to take, and yeah, I'm just ready for it. It's the same at a race. Yes, the mud is annoying at a race because it's not like motocross where they have it's a mud race. They get their stuff sorted, they go for 30 minutes, come back, rip it all off, get showered, get warmed, and then they have to get ready. They have to get ready twice. Where we have to, if you want to, like, you get ready once and you're in the crap all day long. Within reason, like at a World Cup, sometimes you'll go through 2-3 sets of kit in a day. But that's what's like the hard part of it, like getting changed from all the time and trying to keep on top of everything is just admin.
You know, what strikes me about you is, I think when you get to the end of your career, I think you'll easily be able to sit there and say, I did everything. I prepared as hard as I could, committed as hard as I could, I trained as hard as I could. Like, you're not going to leave anything out there. And I think everyone giving you shit, me included a bit at Fort William, because I literally, I don't know, I guess I got paid to go there preseason and I crashed and it sucked. And so people, it's like easier to give you shit than go and do the hard work that you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I actually like listening to that. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's so thick-skinned of you to say, yeah, I'm up here preparing. It's good for the long run. Yeah, it puts more pressure on me to try win Fort William. Clearly, I want to win, but like you don't shy away from the big moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great to win that one, I put a lot of emphasis on that over the years and got pretty close a couple of times. My first podium ever was at Fort William and I got second. That was in 11. Then in 12, I qualified really good and Gwyn qualified really bad. I think he crashed and relied on his protected status, so he came down early and a clearer day than me, and I got second to him there and could barely see 10 metres in front of me at the top. Yeah, there's been a few good races down there, but never quite been able to pull it off.
Now that we sort of looking back in time a bit, what's it like reflecting on Shumperi now that maybe Shumperi's coming again? That's quite an iconic race run you did. The commentary with Pagey and Warner is obviously viral. The run was amazing. I was there on site. It's just everything fell into place for you. But what was it like winning that young and doing it in that fashion and winning a world champs before a World Cup and the pressure that comes with it? Now that you're quite a few years on.
Yeah, so at the time, I was having a really good season. All year, I was I think I was in the top 5 in the overall at the end of the year. So the season had gone really well, and we'd had Val de Sol a few weeks previous, and I got second there to Gwyn. So I knew I was on good form, and actually in 2010 I qualified really well, and then messed up the race, so didn't do very well in the race. But yeah, so that leading up to that, I'd been in Morzine and just been having fun riding. And all week, that week, I just had a good week. And the track was actually more sketchy at other times of that weekend. On a morning, we'd have a really heavy dew. And the track would just be so treacherous to try and get down. Whereas in that race, it had fully poured down, as we all saw. So it wasn't the other end of the scale, but it sort of was, because there was grip. Whereas when it's shiny and just damp, there was just no grip at all. So yeah, I just rode really, even to this day when it rains now, Ludenville being the most recent example. It rains, I look out of the warm-up tent and I'm just right then, well, no pressure now, just go and do what you can do. And it's sort of more of a relaxed vibe, whereas some people may be potentially fully stressed because I don't even know how I'm going to get down. Whereas for me, it's it is what it is at this point. I look around and I'm just I laugh. So it was the same then. We had Oscar working with us at the time then, and he used to do our start routine with us, and I was just right then, here we go, there's the river, and that's where I'll be for the next 3-4 minutes, and that's what it was. I remember that weekend actually, on one of the mornings, it must have been the sketchy morning, dew wet practice. I don't know if I caught G, but G had a big crash in front of me, and I think he knocked himself out. And yeah, it was a savage track. And obviously it wasn't what it was in, was it 2009? I wasn't racing then, but it was more Shumperi than in 2011 than it is now. This year I went back and I was couldn't wait. And I walked it, and there's high lines and this, and you can just get in the what do you call it? It's like a bobsleigh track now, but it's so steep, and you can just get in that run, and you're trying to get up high on the banks. And first run this year, European Champs, I actually did a YouTube course preview, and I was just loving it. And then I didn't fall off all weekend, and then I crashed in the in the final in just a silly corner. But to be fair, like Kolb there this year was going to be fast, and it's going to be an interesting World Champs. I was listening to Loic talking about it the other day, and he was saying how it's so fast now. I don't know what they're going to have to do for the World Champs, because it's pretty sketchy.
What if like the youngsters and some inexperienced people go down that hill?
Well, yeah, and even the experienced people are going to be moving. Like this year, it was so fast and it was so dry, and it got so bombed out. European champs, like the helicopter was just on speed dial, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. But like there was 70-year-olds trying to ride it, and 12-year-olds trying to ride it, 13-year-olds trying to ride it. So the mix of ability was pretty huge.
And I guess the room for error there is a lot less. Like if you come off there, you can have a big one with how steep it is. Like there's other tracks that are fast, but there's runoff, or you can, when a mistake's happening, you can brake there. I mean, it's almost too late if a mistake happens.
You literally like could do that run without a chain from, like, let's say you give somebody a rolling start to get off the start. You could do that run without a chain in the same time. Like,
and do you remember we did heart rate? Do you remember we did heart rate tests?
Yeah.
And our heart rate was as high as, it was max the whole way. It was the same as Fort William. We didn't understand it. We didn't even pedal.
Funny story there. So World Champs, I was with my coach who I've been away and come back to Millway. And he had to get a flight home. I think it was the morning of the race. So he missed the actual race.
Oh, shit. Shame, man.
But yeah, no, Champri is if it wasn't for that, my career would have probably gone maybe in a different direction, and that put me on a high for a long time. And it comes up on Facebook probably every couple of months and gets shared. So.
Yeah, that's the stuff like someone's grandmother sends to their grandson, or teenager, like, look at these crazy guys that do downhill. That's like the run that gets shared,
Yeah.
But what was the pressure like after that?
Since the pressure after that, after that, I was still quite a shy young kid, really. Well, I still am I'm not as young, but I'm still quite like shy and maybe reserved. But like, Giant flew me out to Vegas. Bearing in mind I'm 19, so not even old enough to drink. And they had two showgirls walking me around Interbike, and I'm like, so awkward. This really isn't me, guys. Like, come on, like, give me a break. All day long, these two girls, big boobs pushed right up, and I'm just walking around there. And obviously you see people who know you and know that that's not your thing. And yeah.
Was this Nate Riffle's idea? It must have been Nate Riffle's idea.
Yeah, potentially. Him and Travis. I think more Travis.
Have you got pictures of this? Because if you do, it's getting overlaid over this clip right now. And if not, we'll just fake it.
I think there's somewhere on Google. You can find it.
Oh my goodness, I remember. Yeah, because there's like a big media tour after winning Worlds. I know people say how draining it is in the off season, but I remember you and Dave, you were with Paul.
Paul was your my mechanic for that race, and then I went to Dave the following season. Yeah.
And wasn't he the guy that spoke to you and your dad and was like, right, all the tension's going to be on you. You need to dig deeper than ever. You can't rest on your laurels here, because a lot of people have shit years after winning Worlds.
Yeah, well, I got a little fat and they travelled me around. I was eating burgers in Vegas, and maybe I did let myself go a little bit, but it was a steady start to the next year. But I was getting on the podium, and yeah.
So it was a little bit tough to refocus after you've done this crazy achievement, right? That's like a life goal happening at 19.
Yeah.
So it was quite hard to reset and knuckle
It was,
down.
but I won it in quite dramatic style, so it was probably even more so. Had I have just won the race by half a second or whatever, it might have been different. But yeah, I was taken to Vegas, taken to bike shows here, bike shows there, and I come into the next season and I wasn't the most prepared, but it came around and I was doing well. I was getting on the podium again, and then I had a stupid on my part crash in Les Deux Alpes after Crankworx Europe. I come around a corner and there's a big step down finish jump, and obviously they'd taped it off because the race had finished. And I was like, I can just go through the tape, it'll just snap. But this tape must have been the stretchiest tape I'd ever seen. And I went over the handlebars, put my shoulder out. I can't remember who it was now that helped me put it back in. It was actually a guy that worked for Fox. We got the shoulder back in. I went, oh, thank God for that. It's okay. I went like this and it just dropped out again. I was like, oh, nah, it's all over. So then I missed the rest of the season. World champs were you. 2012 was Leogang when you were on a heater and you rolled the tyre in the in the wall ride. I remember I was watching it in the van on my way home from a motocross track with my dad. Yeah, and you fucked it up.
Yeah, no, thanks. Rub some salt in the wounds. That was my
we could have had it 2 years in a row.
I don't know about a win, but it would have been one of my best world champs results because I was famously good at effing a world champs run up. That's for sure. But yeah, a freaking wooden wall ride on a downhill track. Great.
And
Dave probably glued my tire on, so I was all cocky going in there and didn't work out for me.
Yeah, that off-season, SRAM came out with their new shock and their clutch mech, and I was like the poster boy for all this stuff. Like, was out in San Remo with all the media doing the releases where the media come and they get all their brakes with their names on and their little rucksacks with their names on just so they don't write anything bad about it. And then, I was poster boy for all this gear. Yeah.
Well, it's no wonder you probably thought your shit didn't stink if everyone's putting you up on a pedestal, right? I mean, it's no surprise that you maybe didn't quite work as hard or you were a little bit cocky to your teammates. Maybe that's why we're trying to cut you down to size, you know?
Yeah, probably.
That was good times, though. I mean, that is cool. I need to rewatch that run. I think we'll link to it in the show notes.
When we went to Huntington Beach, I think did we stay at Canepa's house and he had his Cadillac in the garage, and I just got this new Rockstar helmet, Fox helmet, and I had to put a picture of it on the back of his car, and then we went to the beach and it was the Van Doren Invitational or something, and we met Mr. Vans, and at this point I was like, I didn't really know who the guy was, but now I see that he was like the OG Van Doren, the owner of Vans, and all of these things that you just take for granted at the time. Yeah, and we rode at Snow Summit, and I'd never ridden there, and that's really cool memories. And I think actually you went to Fox and picked up some clothes for me or something. I still wear them to this day. Like you went to the shop or something.
I took you. You shouldn't have been such a dick to me. I took you on the Andrew Neething Cali tour. That's what I did.
Dick.
That was good. It was good. That was good times. But you're right. If you think about, you're just so in the moment and you're just so focused on racing, and it's Big Bear because we're going to train and we're staying at Canepa, in between, and getting concussed in front of Pastrana. I mean, just think about all these memories. It's actually just insane.
Yeah, because Pastrana hung out with us. Yeah, he hung out with us at
good point.
Crankworx,
good point.
Didn't he?
He asked to ride with us.
I mean,
we made space for him at our dinner.
Yeah, because he was doing the beer bongs and all that at Crabapple hits, and I remember it all.
He tried to
raced
flip
dual slalom.
that flat, stupid tabletop in A-line and just barely slid down the landing.
Yeah, I raced dual slalom with one of them. I forget which one it was now. And he did a backflip on the first obstacle. And I was like, well,
probably
just
dusty.
stay to the... It was dusty. Stay to the side a little bit. Oh, funny times.
That was great.
But yeah.
Now, Danny, this career you had, the accolades. You had quite an interesting off-season going into 2024. It was almost like a slap in the face, reality check. Like, oh, shit, this could end at some point. Like, we've had those conversations. Yeah. I said, it's not going to end. It's not ending. But this is the start of the feeling that could come, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you've kind of just gone about your business like you did in your career, like make it work, prepare as hard as you can. You haven't really spoken about what was it like, and walk us through ending of a contract and going into a contract cycle, because I don't think the listener, the casual fan, the core fan understands like how cutthroat it can be.
Yeah, so at the end of my Cube contract, so Cube employed me to try and win a World Cup overall, for example. So they're paying me money for that, and that's what they want. They want to be at the sharp end. And I'll be honest, I didn't perform to what they probably wanted. I got one podium, I had a second place at Leogang, numerous sixth place finishes. Like in my second year with the team, I was racing in snowshoe. Sophia had just given birth to Darcy. Darcy was really sick. I raced, I got sixth place, knowing that my wife and newborn baby at home, like, it was like touch and go at some point. She was in intensive care. And I had a flight booked after the race that night to get myself home to be with my family. Therefore missing Monset and the weekend after. But yeah, I got sixth place there. So I was doing my utmost. I knew I was potentially going to miss the birth of my second daughter when I got on the plane to go. I was so committed to the team, and anybody not in their right mind, but anybody could say, I'm not going to make it this weekend because Sophia is due. But no, I went, knew I was going to go and try and do my job. But yeah, at the end of my contract, they didn't want to carry on. They told me I had a talk with them at the last race in the airport before we were about to go all our separate ways. And it wasn't, no, this is over. It was, I'm going to go away and think about it. But they said, right, we're done. We're not exercising your option year. So at this point, I had nothing. And then there wasn't really anything. Nobody was knocking at the door because it hadn't been a fantastic couple of years. So I decided to go with Mark Cumming, which was Continental Nuke Proof at the time. So I went out to New Zealand, had a Nuke Proof. It was in funny times, and then like with Nuke Proof went away. Then we sort of got wind that maybe Nuke Proof are coming back. They didn't end up coming back. So then again, I was actually over in Ireland at the time with Mark and Jen and Chris, and we got the news that Nuke Proof was done while I was there, while we were over there to sort a deal out for the coming season. And I was like, okay, if that's not going to go, what are our options? And we didn't really have any at the time. So I was like, well, GT have just pulled back from their factory program. I think they would potentially be interested in going racing. So we reached out to GT. There was an offer there, an option. And then we got wind again that Nuke Proof were potentially going to come back. And Mark, being the loyal guy that he is, was like, okay, we'll take your word and we'll hold off from this GT deal. Nuke Proof never ended up coming back, so we had to go back to GT, and we got a frame deal, effectively. So then at this point, I'm like, oh, this is going to be crazy. I don't. It was a really hard few months, and like, I'm not going to lie, like, I was like, why am I even doing this? I'm sat in the cold garage here, and it's raining, snowing outside, and I'm on the watt bike doing all these different intervals, and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing it. Like, there was this one, I had to do like this threshold test, and I was given a number that I had to try and sustain or average through 12 minutes, and at the end of it I was nowhere near, and I got really upset and come in the house, and I was like, yeah, in a real bad place, and it was horrible, but I managed to chug on through, and we got racing. But yeah, last season was really challenging. Like, Mark did his utmost to make it the best that he could, and I tried my hardest, and we did what we could, but like, I didn't get there wasn't one paycheck from the team. The only way it was possible for me to do it was because I'd made really good money over the past 6 years, we'll say, with Cube and Madison. So that enabled me to have a year where I sort of had to invest in myself. But like, on that, I just moved house. We were doing a full renovation of a house, and all of this stuff falls on my lap at this time. So it's really hard, and my partners that I've been with for a long time stuck by me with Monster and 510 and Oakley and Crank Brothers, and those guys stayed with me, and it was a hard season. We started on the wrong size bike because I didn't even get a chance to go abroad for good weather riding or testing, apart from the month that I'd done in New Zealand, but that was on a nuke proof. But it was still bike time.
What month? Yeah, what? So, how
I think I
close
got on the
to
GT
season?
in March.
In March 2024.
I think that's what it was. I would have to go back and double check, but it was like...
And when did you even get this deal signed? Like, when did you even... You barely knew it was over the line till late as well, right?
In all fairness, there wasn't really a contract signed. It was just like, let's do what we can. Because if you go away, you're not coming back. Like, if I said, right, well, I'm not going to race because I haven't got a team that I think's worthy, or nobody's going to pay me. If I didn't turn up, in the current way that the downhill World Cup or World Series or whatever you want to call it is, I potentially wouldn't be going racing next year. Well, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have had a 4th place at the World Champs, or I wouldn't have had this result and that result. So I had to stay in it, or it was all done. So yeah, I did my testing. I had maybe one weekend at Fort William. I say testing. It wasn't really testing. It was just FaceTime with my mechanic, Dale, who, yeah, was brilliant all season. We didn't have one mechanical when it mattered ever. And Dale did it for next to nothing as well. And yeah, Mark put together a program that enabled me to go racing, and that's it. And he did a really good job, and I really appreciate everything he did. And yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I can see how much everyone put in to get you to the races and how much effort you put in. But we can't gloss over how cutthroat being a pro sportsman is in downhill.
Yeah.
Like, you've got this pedigree. Yes, you didn't have like the best year, but you got 6 at Snowshoe under those circumstances. You had some good results. Like, a person that was up and coming and younger and got those results, they probably had a ride going into this year. You just kind of, because of your pedigree, had a really good salary, and it's well deserved. And then when everyone starts dilling up their budget, they're like, okay, we can afford this rider, we can afford this rider. Maybe we don't even speak to Danny because we know we can't afford him. You know, and then it got to the point.
Enemy,
yeah, it's just victim of your own success. And then you get to the
exactly.
point where, hey, mate, like, I would probably ride for less if someone would phone me or the emails would come in. Like, what was it like emotionally? Like, just not having a deal. Like before you even got to Mark Cummins, and this Continental nuke proof then GT deal. Like what was that like?
Well, to be fair, I always knew that Mark was going to do something. But I went everywhere. And like, before I said to Mark, let's go, let's do this, obviously I was looking around the pits because I was like, I say around the pits, around through my WhatsApp contacts, like I was reaching out to all of the best teams because if I'm going to do this for free, I want to be on the best program that I can be on. But there was just no space anywhere. Like Laurent at Specialized, I was like, look, I'll do it for free. And like, they're like, obviously like their pits, their tent, everything is ready just for their guys. But there was no space nowhere. And not that I went with Mark for that reason. That's not what I'm saying. Because we put a good program together and yeah, I missed one final, which isn't ideal, but I had some really good results for like the staff on the team. You had Mark, who was the team manager. Then I had my mechanic, and then there was nobody on the track helping us. There's no physio, there's nothing. And like, for me, it was good because I learned that what you do actually need to be putting it up there every weekend. And it's like, you need to have all of these people like line spotters. So you have, like I said earlier, you have 2 hours practice where you can really, really work on your lines. 2 hours isn't a lot of time. And with the amount of riders that we've had at the World Cups these past few years, 2 hours is not a lot of time when there's a queue at the bottom in Leger for 45 minutes. So you're getting no practice. And I'm one, I like to do full runs and, as everybody knows, and be the first guy on the track and all this yada yada yada. Once I get going, I do need to be more mature in my ways of learning the lines. I like to just get going and I just love riding, so I hate stopping and pushing back up. But yeah, so that was something that I was thinking like, yeah, these people on the track are really helpful and I haven't got anyone.
Yeah, it's probably quite tough sort of doubting that you need it, you know. There's one thing like when we were on Giant, we would have Oscar at some races and not, and we'd had good results both ways, right? It kind of makes you realize. But when it's got to the level it is now and some teams have more than one person, and as you said, the times that you don't have enough time. It's one thing if you have all day to practice, it's more about how much your body can physically take versus learning the track. Now it's like flipped on its head. So I remember speaking to you in Leger a little bit about that. And I was like, yeah, dude, if you're doubting that you need someone on the track, that's enough to influence your result, whether you're on the right line or not. So maybe invest in getting some help there because shit, it's tough when you see everyone else has it. And even Greg spoke about like even when he was injured and he was watching from the side, he's like, shit, guys on the wrong line, but still going quick. But when you're riding, you're like, you're doubting it. You're doubting yourself. You're just constantly doubting if you're on the right line. But a committed wrong line is often as quick as a non-committed right line. And I'm just coming back to like, it's such a head game, especially now at the pointy end of the field. So it's factually, you had way less support out there.
Yeah. You effectively like in an ideal world, say you've got 6 proper sections on the track. You need a person in each one. Like, it's going to be very hard because it's a lot of people, but like sometimes if you have 1 or 2 guys on the track and they stand together, which like I see quite often, 2 guys standing together, I'm like, well, you're not really maximizing what you can both be doing. But that's one section, and you ask them about the next section and they don't know. But yeah, it's just it's hard.
Yeah, but I mean, with the condensed practice schedule and having juniors there, it's just forced the teams to up the staff contingent for sure, and everyone's looking for those like
Yeah.
little gains. But then there's races where you feel good on the track and you're not even listening to your line coach. It's like, how
No.
funny is the sport?
Yeah, yeah. Confidence is a big thing. If you have
So
confidence, you can ride that
where do you think
wave.
it comes from? Like, how do you define that?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you shouldn't really take confidence from race results, because if you have bad race results, if you have a bucket full of confidence from winning races and you don't win a couple races and that bucket is empty, you have no confidence. But it's something that is inherent, it's just in us. When you win a race, whatever race it might be, you get that bit of energy in you and you're like, yeah, check me out. And it's like after World Champs this year, like I knew that I can do it, I went to Ludenville and was riding well and it rained, but yeah, so that it's hard. You need to. Yeah, I don't even know the answer. It's too deep for me. I can't think that far, that much.
It's too deep for me. That's what I love about you, man. You just get on and do it. I heard a statement, and I don't think it's too deep for you. Confidence comes from demonstrated practice. Now, I think it can take a season to gain all the confidence. It can take that one moment to bust your confidence. And you're right. You can't
Yeah.
take it from results. You have to take it from the process. But winning races certainly adds to the momentum. I think momentum is a good word, You're on this momentum train. Let's go. Get me to
Yeah.
the next race. I'll win again. Didn't you win a few races in a row? 3?
Yeah. Well, no, well,
So
4.
that's like momentum, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like 3
4.
World Cups and World Champs.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a great run. That's really, really cool. Yeah, it's interesting. As much as people say it shouldn't come from race results, they certainly help. I'd rather have good race results and have a little bit of fake confidence and a boost that way. Yeah, it's super interesting. But
Well, you can
I think,
walk around with your chest puffed up like I'm the guy here, and when you walk around oozing that confidence, you're a hard man to beat.
yeah, and I almost think like this cycle of contracts probably knocked your confidence, maybe without you knowing, and
Yeah.
not having the preparation you used to. And you probably subconsciously knew, shit, this is not how I normally go into a World Cup season,
No.
And it probably took you until you had enough bike time on the right bike to get that result for you had to see yourself at the top again. You couldn't just go, I need to be Danny Hart that used to win races. You actually had to see yourself put that result in.
Yeah, this year I actually changed my frame size after a couple of races, and me and my mechanic Dale went a different direction with the suspension, and I went to Whistler and then had a really good time riding out there. It's like I hadn't been there since before COVID. This year I went in Crankworks, which I hadn't been since I was on Giant, and I was trying to be my best self because I was doing the Canadian Open, and it's a serious track. You've probably seen the new. Have you seen the new 1199? I think it's called. There's no messing around there, and in Whistler it's so easy to just go do bike park laps. And I actually went to Crankworks with 510 and Adidas. They took me over there and put me up, and it was good because we were staying in Blackholm, so it's a little bit out of the village. So when you were in your accommodation, you didn't have the pull to just nip into the village and do whatever. So I was doing my practice at the race. Then my friend Tommy was borrowing me his road bike or gravel bike, and I was spinning my legs. I was doing my utmost to be prepared for a race, which is a more mature me being in Whistler like that, because when we used to go to Whistler for Crankworks with Giant and I was younger and Marcelo was on the team, me and you would give him shit because he would go and do his practice for Garbanzo or Canadian Open, and then go and sit with his legs in the river or whatever he would do, and we'd be out doing laps on airline or crabapple or whatever, and then he would have the last laugh because he'd go home with a pocket full of money, and we were like, oh, good for you, but like, he went there for work, and I tried to do that a little bit this year, like I didn't go out or anything, and I think that was good coming into the second part of our season. Obviously, we went to World Champs and had a good race there, and yeah, so I just waffled on a little bit there, but
no, dude. People aren't used to you speaking this long. You should. It's great, but you missed the part where you had an issue with your wheel just before the race. I'm not throwing anyone on the bus, but someone lent you a wheel. I mean, this is epic, and you still did quite well on like someone else's wheel on the wrong tire.
So what happened was I went to Whistler, and obviously what you can take as one man in your bike box is quite limited. So instead of taking 2 wheels, I took a wheel and a rim. Obviously, I can't change your wheels. I was
going to say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with a rim?
So I was stealing and borrowing of people to get a hub and get this ready and that ready. And I did actually have a spare wheel, so I sorted that out. So that wasn't actually an issue. And the track's savage, so like going to practice with 1 wheel, which I did the first day because I didn't get a wheel ready for the first day. And then I managed to for the second day, so I did have a spare. But yeah, I went up for my race. Ethan, Nina's mechanic, checked my bike over because I didn't have a mechanic that day. And it was fine. The bike was good. You have to ride down to the lift, so I rode down. The bike was fine. I'm at the top, stood sort of shooting the shit with Dak because it's not as serious of a World Cup, but you're trying to be a little bit more... prepare a little bit without the trainer and what have you, so we're jumping around, we're doing some squats, yada yada yada. I go back to my bike and the front tyre seems a bit flat. I'm like, are you kidding me? Get a pump it up, ride it around so the sealant would maybe work a miracle. It didn't. So I'm like, right, well, what am I going to do? So I'm stood there and there's people riding by. I'm like, this young lad, bless him, I said, look, can I borrow your wheel? Like, my front tyre's flat and I haven't got one. What size rotor is it? It was the same size rotor. Fox fork. It was a Schwalbe tyre and I wasn't used to Schwalbe tyres. Let us borrow your wheel. So he gives me his wheel. He told me it was the same pressure as what I had. So I'll take your word for it. And I did my run and all the way down this tyre was pinging off the rim, like, oh my God, this could end in tears here. And I'm getting further and down, thinking, oh, champion, this is actually going all right. And I finished the run and I think I've come away with a 4th or 5th or something. And then I need to get this kid his wheel back, and because I can't, the next day I managed to track him down and him and his family come to the Adidas condo that we had, and I gave him I had a helmet that had been stuck in Whistler because it was there for paint, so gave him a brand new helmet, some Adidas swag, and the kid was happy. So yeah, I had a 5th on a borrowed wheel. But what I took from it, like all week, that race, and everybody's there on their summer break, and Luca, myself and Dak were like, whoa, getting a bit of a cough, a bit of a sore throat, you know. I think, not sure I'm going to be for Sunday, meaning like, could do without this, you know, it's quite savage. Obviously everybody's going to race, but we're all just messing around. But like at that point there, I had an out, not to put myself in danger, not to fail, because the fear of failure is a real thing, you know. Some people could have been like, right, I can dip now, so then I don't have to finish 7th if I finish 7th, or 5th if I finish 5th, which I did. But I'm like, no, I've come all this way. Adidas have paid for me to be here. I'm going to represent, and I'm going to do my best. And I was proud of myself that I didn't dip, and I put on it was good vlog content as well.
Yeah, no, it was really entertaining. And I mean, the kid obviously knew who you were at the top, or did you have to say, "Hey, I'm Danny,
Yeah,
like I've won some races, like please give me this damn wheel."
he did, because had it have been,
Ma-
without sounding rude, had it have been like somebody in the masters class, they probably would have said, "No, Swivel, you're not having my wheel." Because it was me, maybe there's like...
That's great. And then you couldn't give it back to him that day because you couldn't find him, so you had to probably use
No.
Instagram to get it back. You know what it makes me think of? Like when you're a junior and you're up and coming, and like you've just went through this weird year where you're just like on, less support, and you're making it happen. And then you get on these factory teams, and I was probably victim to that. I start getting spoiled. 3 sets of wheels, tires. You start moaning when the right, the certain compound's not there, and you need 6 spares. Where are they? We're doing the race and we're riding down the seal. And it's like, you should just step back and be like, if I was a junior, would I give a shit? No, just get on with it, And it maybe is like a wake up call, even, which we'll get to later. You go to these factory teams, you're going to be spoiled again. You got all this equipment, but there's a job to be done. If they don't have the correct compound tire, who gives a shit?
You were a bit of a princess when it came to that stuff.
Oh my God, this wasn't an opening for you. But you're right, I was particular. You mean with my brakes?
Oh, everything. Oh, it's 1 mil too high. Just get on it and ride it.
And I couldn't run that air spring either. I was like, give me the normal coil. I ain't running that new spring. No air spring. Yeah. I'm like, nah, no small bump for me. Give me the normal one. Yeah, I'd admit it. I'd admit it. I was particular and got spoiled near the end for sure.
But like, you're right. Like, we are going to come to it, I guess. But like, I had a bike dropped off for me the other day. There's 2 sets of wheels. There's for probably 8 tires there. Different this, different that, different the other. I'm like, whoa, this is it. Like the grass. No, obviously, I was going to say the grass isn't always greener. Obviously, it's not. But like, sometimes you think when you're on the factory teams, you take it for granted. And now, of a year of how I've done it, I'll not be taking anything for granted.
Yeah, I think this has been will be turned into a silver lining for you. Like this will probably give you another few more years. Potentially, if you went to another team and didn't have perfect results, you might have faded out. But I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like I think we're going to see an even more energized Danny after you had that chip on your shoulder and you came out swinging on. Look, credit to the team that supported you. And when just factually you on less support. He probably cost himself money supporting you, which is amazing, right? I can hear you thankful.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just, and now it's like, okay, maybe it will be a wake-up call when you feel like moaning about something. It's like, let's just get on and do the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I'm so thankful that I was able to even show up. So, yeah, it's like right now, like I've been training for 2 or 3 weeks, and I said to Sophia, the first time I went back out to my little home gym to go on the watt bike, I'm like, it feels like I only did this for the last time for last season, only like 2 weeks ago, and I've got my towel over my shoulder, my chamois on, and I'm going back out to the garage to do it again. I'm like, oh my God. And then, because when you do it for the last time, like say before I went to Mont Saint Anne, it's like, thank God this is done now. I don't need to go on this watt bike for a while. It's like a relief. And then, like I says, when I was going out the other day to do it, I was a bit like, oh, here we go again. And then I got in there, and I enjoyed it, because like I thought of the times when I was on it last off season, and I was like sat there upset doing it, like tears running down my eyes, thinking, why am I even doing this? And now I'm like embracing it and really enjoying it. And granted, it's only 3 weeks into a long off season of training, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, seeing the consistency of the numbers I'm doing and my heart rate coming down and all of this stuff. And like, yeah, it's like a whole different mindset.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And speaking of training, like you did quite a big stint once you figured out the correct bike size in Europe leading up to Worlds, right? I don't know when it was,
Yeah.
but I kind of noticed how much downhill time you were doing, and it really paid off. Like your preparation and the bike time, it really
Yeah.
paid off going into those results, right? Like you've got to see that was not a coincidence. Like that is exactly why you performed as well.
Yeah, so the season previously has worked where I can do, like, so I think what I did this year was I went to Poland, got smoked, came home. I went to Poland, I flew to Poland and flew home because Poland was like so far for one race. Flew home, packed the camper. I was like, right, we're going. We're heading to the mountains and I'm going to go riding. So I did Poland, one off, fly in, fly out. Then I did 2 blocks in Europe for my season. So my season's like done in 2 Euro trips and 1 North America trip. And we're riding in, I went to, so we did Champery, European Champs, did Leogang, did all these races, went to Morzine. It was like in, I think, summer break, like for the whole of Europe. And we were in Morzine, we were in the supermarket, and it was just full of people. And me and Sophie were like getting anxiety. There's too many people everywhere. So we got in the camper and just left because I was like, we can't stay here. It's not good for my riding. There's too many people. So we went to Ladies Alp. I went to Ladies Alp and it was insane. Like, it's high, so it was good preparation for Andorra. And the tracks are unreal. Like, it was just awesome. I got the timing pulls out. I was pushing myself. And yeah, so I did like my season in like 2 trips, but I need to potentially try and stay away from Morzine in summer. It's just so busy.
You are a bit of an introvert, I guess.
Yeah, like there's like, you don't see like riding in Morzine. You don't see Amory. You don't see these guys riding in Morzine, and it's for a reason, because it's not necessarily the best riding. Yes, you can ride a lot, but it's not super focused, proper riding.
Yeah, do you think there's too many distractions there?
It's like the Plenty Steeps, for example, as they call them. Like, when I was a kid, there was like 3 or 4, and it was 1 track down each one of them. And you would actually ride the black. You would go there and you would do runs down the black when I was a kid. Whereas now you go there and the single tracks, it's just an array of tracks. And to try and get one, what you can link together, is next to impossible. And there's just you can't really get your teeth into a track. And I just think they need to like close it down for a season and let the mountain heal and everybody come back and put new tracks in and have some sort of rules about it, because it's just so vast now, and I don't really enjoy it that much. When I'm there, I would prefer to go over to Châtel and Morjan and places like that, because it's where you set off on one track at the top and you finish on that track at the bottom, and it's much better. And that's what Les Alpes was like. Yeah, I just think
that's quite a hack for if you want to get faster. It's actually repetition on the same track. Yes, you want to do a variety of tracks, but if you want to really get feeling on a bike and push and learn to go hard in turns, it's repetition. That's why I've said it all along. How did Brendan get so good riding 40-second tracks in Surrey Hills? You think that wouldn't be a good thing, but it's repetition and pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. Picture this. You're straightening the gnarliest trails, wind in your hair, adrenaline pumping, and then it hits you. You need to tame the beast below the belt. That's where Manscaped comes in. With their cutting-edge technology and precision engineering, you can groom with the same confidence you take on those downhill descents. It's the holiday season, folks. For some, it's the most wonderful time of the year. For others, it's just another round of dodging awkward questions about your love life and trying not to look like you just crawled out of a cave. Enter the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra by Manscaped to save your dignity this holiday season. Don't be that family member who shows up solo and scruffy to yet another holiday gathering. Get your overgrowth under control with a Weed Whacker 2.0 and let the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra help you seal the deal. Whether it's at the office party, a family dinner, or your next big adventure. Join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to help keep their grooming game strong. Head over to manscaped.com and use the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE for 20% off and free shipping. Now, we've all been there, and if you haven't, consider yourself lucky. You're about to groom in places you'd rather not talk about. And oops, you've got a grooming mishap on your hands. Not with Manscaped. With their design built to reduce the risk of accidents, you'll groom with confidence. And it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower too. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is your ultimate holiday helper. It's everything you need for below. The waist maintenance. It takes care of those rogue nose and ear hairs. Think of it as your seasonal survival kit, keeping you clean, confident, and ready to crush cuffing season and every festive gathering ahead. And here's the best part. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra doesn't just stop at the essentials. It also includes 2 holiday bonuses. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag. These premium extras will make sure you're always ready to jingle and mingle, whether at home or on the go. So if you want to look and feel your best out on the trail or outshine your weirdo uncle who's still rocking that goatee from 1985 and claim your spot at the top of the sibling power rankings, Manscaped is for you. As I said, get 20% off and free shipping with the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way. What do you make of preparation now and testing? Like, you've got Loic and his mechanic, clearly Amaury, like it's got pretty damn professional and pretty high end now, right? Like the work you need to put in, the bike time you need to put in coming into a season. It's definitely changed since I hung up my boots.
Yeah, we say it every off-season though, you can't leave any stone unturned. The gaps are so tight. I've probably said it every off-season. It's just like a sort of a formality thing to say, but it is like you cannot leave anything unturned. And me with last season, I had no FaceTime with my mechanic apart from, like I said earlier, the one weekend that we had in Fort William, and it was pouring down. It was blowing a gale sideways. The lift was getting put off and put off and put off. Like, we didn't get the chance to go to San Remo, go to Lausa, go to these places. So we were learning on the job. And these guys, like, I don't know if these guys are riding for fun ever. Like, I don't know if Loic goes to a bike park and rides just fun laps with his friends ever. And I get to a point in the season where, in the off season, where that does stop. Like, I'll go to Dovey and I'll get the timing pulls out and there's like the shred crews there, just do laps and make 17 corners in a straight line and all of that sort of stuff. And they like take the mick out of me, like of digs like Racer Boy and this and that and the other. But I'm like, why would I go there and ride with these people, ride slow? It's not fun for me to ride slow. I have to go fast for it to be fun. It's like, it just baffles me how it is in these bike parks these days. It really baffles me. Like, it's the same like the stigma of me being first in the start all the time, which I'm not so much anymore. Ronan is more than me.
Dude, Ronan is the new Danny. I just saw him in South Africa, and then he's going here to ride, and then he's going there to ride, and he brought his downhill bike. I was like, this guy reminds me of Danny. He loves riding his bike.
Exactly, that's it. And I'm 33 years old and I still love riding my bike. But like
That's
at World Cups
amazing.
now, we don't get much time to love riding our bike. Do you know, it's like every time you throw your leg over the bike at a World Cup, you cannot, there's no time to mess around. It's different
Would you
now.
change?
And you don't,
Would you change it? Would you get a little bit more practice time? It seems like it's just
oh
too
yeah, I'd much
condensed.
rather have, yeah, 100%. I'd much rather have like the day's practice that we used to have where you can do all the runs and like every day at a World Cup now, you've got a little bit of a pressure cooker. With time training, it's a real thing. Like if you do time training and you're out the back, it's not good. Like, and you think you've done a good effort, it's not ideal. But I think it's going to be even worse. Well, it could be different. Like next year, I believe every run's timed, so then it's different again.
Yeah, I haven't even followed. I mean, I followed it probably more than you have, but I haven't followed
Yeah.
it that much that they're going to bring that in. But I don't know what we win from condensing it so much. Like you want the riders to have the preparation. I guess in the long run there'll be less riders, so less queue. So maybe you'll
It's
get
still 2
to the
hours.
point. But I just think it's such a nuanced sport. It's not like Formula One where you can do a warm up lap and you can race the track in your sim on your private jet on the way there, and then you just
Mm,
need 10 minutes of practice. It's a very
yeah.
nuanced sport where I think you should allow the riders to decide when they're done. I'm not saying let them ride 20 runs a day, but you want to let them get competent, and then you have a mechanical, like
Yeah.
you're going to break a wheel. So now
Mm,
you need to nurse your bike through practice so you don't waste time breaking your wheel. I don't really know. It just seems like a very condensed schedule.
yeah. Yeah, it's tricky now. Like I said, there's not really any time to. I guess you're racing the
Piss
World Cup.
about.
You shouldn't really be messing around.
No,
But yeah,
not pissing about, but preparing to race a World Cup, to hurt yourself down a
yeah,
hill.
yeah.
Well,
What?
on that bombshell, should we drop the bombshell?
Yeah, it's on you. You're the.
So, Danny, you've talked a little bit about being a little bit undergunned. You had a great world championship, showed your speed, showed your work ethic. People could tell that you were potentially on less support than them, changing bikes, not as much bike time. Your phone, your WhatsApps was blowing up like a hot girl in the bar, from what I could tell during the off season. That's got to
Yeah.
be make you
So
feel good, right?
yeah, after Monson and like honestly, like my phone was blowing up a little bit, and it sounds like quite sad, I guess, like a bit woe is me, but for a longest time there, like the phone wasn't ringing, and it's quite hard mentally to accept that. But then so felt really good for the phone to be ringing. It was like, oh, people want me, and I know I'm not. I know that it's because I've got points, but I've got points because of the effort I've put in, and the phone can keep ringing.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, right, with the rule changes and the deadlines, be it January or something, that the rider moves to a new team. The new team inherits those points, as I understand it. And then that team is looking to be in the top 10, top 15. That's super interesting time, but we shouldn't take away from, a rider of your caliber with what you've performed. Like people can see that the speed's there at Worlds. So
Yeah,
they're also buying into Danny Hart, not just the points,
exactly. Yeah,
because you've got a 2-year deal now, if I understand. I don't know if you're allowed to speak
yeah,
about that, but
exactly.
let's hear it. We recording this a little prior, but when you're listening to this, the news would have dropped. I'm not going to do the
Yeah, so
announcement.
I've
You are.
signed with Norco Racing Division. That's what the team's called, and yeah, super like really happy that like Greg's chosen me. Obviously, Greg's got a hell of a pedigree. Like they don't call him the GOAT for nothing. And for him to reach out to me and want me to be a part of his program and Norco as well. Obviously, it's a group of them combined. Is like it's unreal. Like and like. From what I can tell, it's only early doors with the team, so you're like still in your honeymoon period, if you like. But like, there's going to be no stone left unturned. Like to see what they did in 2024 on a super short time scale, and what they want to do in 2025 onwards. Like, I'm not going to say I'm speechless, but I'm like super impressed. The team manager is my coach, Alan Milway, so that's good. Like we know how each other ticks, and yeah, everything is just looking really good moving forward. Like I think we have a trip to, they want to go to New Zealand in January, and this time last year I was planning my own trip to New Zealand on my own dime and trying to find somewhere to stay. Like I stayed with Bernard, and Bernard was great. But like this time it's going to be other end of the spectrum, if you like, and I'm just really looking forward to how it's all going to go.
Yeah, it's really cool and exciting, and it's pretty surreal. I mean, getting called by Greg, like that means something, right? Like he's the guy calling you, right? And having the calls and sending the contracts over, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I had a call with Greg one morning, and the next morning I was at the motocross track, and the contract dropped in the inbox. So it was all done really quick. It's actually quite strange because there's quite a few moving parts in this team, and I didn't really know who I was meant to be talking to. So yeah, it took a week or so to figure out who to speak to and who does what. And but yeah, it's good. Like I think Greg, to be Greg's teammate over the years is potentially more difficult than, I think Greg's super competitive. I don't want to speak out of turn, but from things I've heard, like Greg is super competitive, goes about his business, and he's probably maybe similar to what I have been in my career, like your story about me not wanting you to test with me and things like that. And I think Greg, now being on the other side of the fence, is going to have so much knowledge and so much knowledge and know-how that it's going to be, if he puts even half of what he knows into his team, it's the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to him about that on the pod, and I've had chats in the bar. I said to him, I don't think you can ever understand what it's like to be around you as another rider or a younger rider. You know, you might be bantering, but they internalize it differently. And that's not Greg's fault. People might say, oh, he's playing mind games. I said to him, the more I hang out with you, understand that you're not always, sometimes you do. We've all done it to each other. But also sometimes he might even doubt himself. So he's asking about lines, and you're like, is Greg asking about lines? If he doesn't know where he's going, how on earth am I going to know where I'm going? Like it's just a recipe for a bit of a disaster there on the mind game. So I had that chat with him in the podcast, and it was interesting because he's almost blissfully unaware that he could be that competitive that would affect other riders. And he also said, it's kind of doesn't feel like it's his place. He's hired to be a rider. Then they bring on someone like Jackson. And I'm speaking for him, so I'm not saying this is exactly how he said it. But he said it's almost not his place to tell Jackson how to ride a bike. He's an incredible rider. He didn't really ask. So does Greg tell him what to do or what could happen if he does that? Like, it's not really his place. And now, as you said, from what I can tell, like this is a good thing for him to retire and then have something to focus on like this. And he can be competitive with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes because there's a lot of us on the team from what I know. And it's going to be a lot of moving parts, but I'm really excited to be with the group that we're with. Everybody seems super motivated. Like Tom Duncan, like, who was Greg's mechanic there for, excuse me, for the last season, is going to be in a different role from what I can tell. But he dropped the bike off to me the other day, and yeah, it's just brilliant to have like this fresh. It's like opening a new chapter, more so than going from Madison to Cube or Mondraker to Madison or whatever, because I've had that year there where things were a lot different, and now this is like drawing a line in the sand and going again. So I'm really excited, and it's going to be good.
Because there was thoughts in your head that if the deal didn't come about, like you might not have raced this year. I mean, that was one of the scenarios, right?
Yeah, well,
maybe it crept into your head a little bit.
Yeah, the way the World Cup's going now, it could have been difficult. Yeah, I don't want to even think about that, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know what I would do. I'd drive my wife even more crazy than I already do.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, how can you not be energized when you're like, whoa, this almost kind of got taken away, but I got some help, and you're thankful for it, and now you're like, let's go again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's what I mean. It's like I can draw a line in the sand and have like a second coming, if you like.
Well, you're allowed to talk about it. I'm not going to say when we're recording this in case you got in trouble when you got the bike and stuff, but so are you like, how good does the bike look? Have you even taken it? Can you take it to Hamsterley yet?
I'm going tomorrow. It's my first day on it tomorrow, so I've only just got it. So
when everyone's listening, don't go rip us in the comments. So you're going to listen to this January sometime, potentially. The news is out. We're recording this late November, December. That's why some of these timelines might feel a bit different. So
yeah, but no, at least now we know what we're doing. I know, well, like months before I knew what I was doing last year, so it's all looking up.
Wicked, man. And are you doing Hardline Tasmania? No. Okay, so that's not on the cards. So you're going to just focus entirely on the World Cups. But you said there's pre-season in New Zealand, so that's awesome. Have you got any pre-season schedule or races you want to do, may do?
There's a couple of things that are on the radar. That January we're going to go to New Zealand. Then we want to do a full, because the team is so big, we really need to do like a rehearsal, like with schedules and with everything. So we're potentially going to do that. And we may do that in Andorra, I think. Yes, there's lots. We're going to be good.
Lots that you're going to be doing that is probably needing to be kept under wraps, which is really cool. I look forward to it. He's mentioned a few things, ideas, not like the exact details, but he's like, we've got this where I think is going to help with performance and this. So, yeah, it's been intriguing to spend time with, now I can call him your new boss. So I got to spend time with a new boss. Podcast was probably out before this one, I guess. So I get to give him a little bit more shit now because he doesn't race anymore. So he doesn't have that on me anymore. But, we're getting on well. And, I just heard him speaking to one of your teammates. And I'm like, shit, dude, you're pretty street smart. I would hope so. After all these years in the industry, he was talking about if someone should go with a certain deal and the other options. I was like, shit, that's really incredible advice that he was given.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's funny to be in these meetings with Greg when he's coming from a different role. He's just trying to please everybody else, when I'm sure all of his career, everybody's just trying to be pleasing Greg. It's probably quite tricky for him, I think.
I can imagine.
No, I mean, he will have been going through the meetings that your normal team managers have been going through year in, year out, and he's coming at it now from a total different perspective. And it's probably good. It's probably quite good for him to have. It's like him drawing the line a little bit from his racing. now I'm sure he's always been into business and stuff. I can see that looking from the outside, but this is all about learning. He'll be learning every day as well. So.
No, he absolutely will be, and you have to draw that line quickly of like, okay, it's not about me, it's the performance of the team, and then he's got an opinion on that. Like, it's going to be a really big challenge for him, which I'm sure he's going to embrace on the performance side. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And like you said, you haven't really followed the World Cup changes, right? You just kind of kept your head down, race as good as you can, and as the better you do, the better you're gonna do and get a ride.
Exactly.
So it's like almost no point to follow it.
Yeah, all I can do is what I can do, and what will be, and what will be is what it's going to be. Now I've back onto a factory program, and in fact, it's funny. At the end of my 2023 season, I was chatting a lot with Jamie Bestwick, because he's somebody that's been through lots of contracts and negotiations and all of this stuff, and I had quite a lot of he was sort of mental coach as well, so only briefly. It wasn't like a lot, but I messaged him yesterday saying, after all the hard times of the past, let's say, year and a half, things are now looking up, and I'm back onto a program that's probably one of the best programs out there, and it's all good again. And he says, yeah, we did say this is what will happen, and it is what's happened. I worked hard and we've been back here. I think the Norco team I don't think there's many teams in the pits that are really putting everything into this. I think a lot of the teams are going through the motions, running a downhill team. But you've got teams like Specialized and teams like Commensal that are I would say, so that's 20% of, if it's 20% of the teams, they're the only ones that are really doing everything possible to be the best they can be. And I think Greg and Norco and the engineers and Alan are all shooting to be better than them. And I said to Greg when we first started talking, I don't think there's many teams doing it to the best of their ability, apart from Specialized and Commensal. And it looks like, to me, it does look like Norco want to be there. And he said, yeah, we want to overtake those guys. So yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be certainly interesting to watch that trajectory. And I think it's a fair thing. I think some teams are there, but it's not, say, the be-all and end-all of their marketing strategy for the brand. Depending on where you prioritize your marketing strategy, maybe some teams put more emphasis on the XC team, and then the downhill team maybe has a bit less budget. So how do they perform with a team that says, well, we're going to throw everything at it, we're going to put a lot of staff in there, put a lot of riders? So it's going to be super cool to see. But that's super interesting that you connected with Bestwick. I got a lot of respect for him. Did you say he just sort of plays a sort of mentorship here and there with you, or how did that come about?
Yeah, he did. I actually know Jamie through Sean from Monster. Jamie was in Leger, and I'd had a bad race in Leger at the end of 23, and I was just in a really bad place. And I think Sophia, my wife, was actually talking to him, and she said, you need to talk to him. He's a fountain of knowledge. And obviously, as a fountain of knowledge, he's an OG BMX guy. I watched him when I was a kid on TV, and I'm sure you did as well. Back in the GT days when, he just reached out to me. We had a few conversations, and and I think he's somebody that I would always be able to reach out to, and it's good to have people like that in your corner. And that was through Monster, I guess, with Sean.
Yeah, I think it really is. If you've got someone that's gone through these things ahead of you, there's always something they're going to help you with, or just maybe. And I think sometimes you need someone in your corner to say it's going to be okay. it's going to be a shit year, but it's not forever, right? It's just
Yeah.
1 year of your
Yeah.
racing career, and it's going to feel like a very short year when we chat in 5 years again. You'll be like, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
year I rode for nothing. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Look what I learned.
Yeah. That is what I'm taking from it. It's like a lesson. It's like I know people say if you don't win, you learn, but this isn't that. But like, it has been a big learning year for me.
Maybe if you don't earn, you learn. How's that? How's that saying?
There you go. You're a poet and
Poet.
you don't know it.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. I don't think me and you can rap or sing. Those are not our talents. What's Bestwick up to now?
He is actually the team manager at British Cycling for freestyle BMX with the Olympics and everything. Like, I think he picks the teams for him, and yeah, it's good. All the old BMX guys are doing that. I see Nyquist's doing it, and yeah, there's lots of them.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. I just think someone that's been through those sort of experiences, like Pagey, that was a manager, Will Longdon, like, these guys that have been there often. I think sometimes there's a challenge because they can't always see it through an athlete's eyes, and an athlete isn't always right, and an athlete can certainly be a princess. However, that is the goal, is to get the athlete down the hill as quick as possible. So sometimes, I feel there's a disconnect, and you've probably felt that on some time. You're like, it's so frustrating. Like, this is what we need. It's not a money thing. They're like, it's like, oh, we don't have the budget for that. I'm like, but you spend over there. Let's make it work.
Oh, you've had these conversations, haven't you, Noodles?
Oh, plenty.
With your free bars in Whistler, and you wanting your little flight to London and this and...
Well, I wanted to go test a bike, and me and Duncan had to pay for it ourselves. We're like, what the hell is going on here?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did notice with doing like the contract negotiations with Greg is you can tell that he's a rider and he knows it from the rider's point of view. So there was things where your normal office bod wouldn't take into consideration, but I knew that Greg had been potentially stiffed in his career before, so he could see he didn't want things to happen to me as a rider, and that was really like, that's awesome to know that somebody is looking out for you from a rider's perspective as opposed to the best interest of the company that they're working for. That was really
and I think that
evident.
That's cool, because I think that'll give you the confidence in him and the team, and then you're going to have better results, and that works for him as a team director and the team, right? So it's like, it's mutually beneficial to write that into a contract, or make sure that if worst case happens, it doesn't affect you too negatively, and everyone wins that way.
And also working with Kathy Sessler is like the logistics manager on the team. And I've known Kathy for a long time. Like, I used to be good friends with Josh when he was racing the World Cups. When we were younger, we used to hang out a little bit. So I was around Kathy a little bit, not a lot by any means, but she can just tell that she just wants the best for the rider. And especially now with me having a family and a wife, like, it's so evident that she just knows that a happy rider is a good, fast rider. And I'm super excited for what's to come.
Well, I think that's a pretty splendid way to wrap it up, Danny. I'm stoked for you. We've had some awesome times over the years, and I've always been rooting for you and all the podcast reviews. I know you listen to them. You're a closet podcast review fan of the Crank Brothers one, but yeah, I was always rooting for you, and I always knew it would come round, and I was like, just get through the year. It's not going to feel good that you didn't have the big contract you deserved, but sometimes in life you just don't get what you deserve at that time, and that doesn't mean you should give up. So I think it's a cool inspiration to the youngsters out there. Like, even Danny Hart can go, get fourth at Worlds. So when he's having a tough time or not the contract he felt he deserved. So, mate, if there's anything else, yeah, sometimes you just need a good kick up the arse in life, don't you?
Yeah, I get it quite often from my wife. But when it comes from elsewhere like this, it's real.
Well, Danny, thanks so much for your time. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for the support. Actually, you know what? Sorry. Let's rip through a couple questions because it wouldn't be fair to post. I'm not going to get through all of them, but what caused
There's
you to
thousands, I
decide to
bet.
clip? Yeah, jeez, I was going to scroll through here. Oh, there's only one. No, I'm joking. What caused you to decide to clip in?
I come from a BMX racing background, and I've been clipped in. Don't get me wrong, I can put a set of flats on and go ride a pump track or a skate park or all that stuff. But I've been on clips for a long time. Thinking of that, remember when we went to post office dirt jumps, Needles, and I had these visions of Needles being this trail boss, jumping all these big dirt jumps back home, and you didn't even jump the big line at post office.
What are you talking about?
I
You talk
I'm telling you.
absolute shite. That wasn't the question. They didn't ask if Needles... What big line at post
I
office?
did.
Those jumps aren't even big.
Why didn't you jump the main ones then?
Oh, here we go. I've still got a jump bike. I'll dust off the cobwebs. Nah,
Don't
I
ride
won't.
them anymore.
I told you how hard I crashed following Ronan the other day. Oh my goodness. How are you feeling about returning to Champri for World Champs? You kind of answered this, but give us the one sentence version.
Oh, really excited. I returned this year for Euro Champs, obviously with the know-how that it's going to be World Champs. And I believe it was going really well. Like, just enjoy every practice run. Not so many lines, just really steep. Love it. Our World Champs is a hard World Champs team to make, so I'll be pushing on, and hopefully I'll be there to try and get the 3-time.
There we go. You can use Greg's old guy energy to get it again. I can answer this one. Do you get any arm pump? That's a no. I was his teammate, and he annoyingly never gets arm pump. Is that correct?
Yeah. Anybody that gets arm pump in 4 minutes really needs to give their head a shake.
Oh my goodness. What's the key? What's the key to getting? This is about you, not about me. This podcast. What's the key to getting faster and more stylish on the bike?
I've been doing it a long time. I don't know now. What's the key to getting faster? I think a big thing, which I think I taught you, is you need to look forward. Look way further forward than you think you have to. And in style, I think you've either got it or you haven't.
I think that's a fair comment in the steeps of plenty. That is a good tip. I think you've also glossed over, we've talked about a lot in this podcast, how much you love riding, how much you go out and ride, how much you do the same track, you take the timing poles out, you test yourself against yourself. Even if no one else is there, you're just trying to get faster. So repetition, but doing the correct thing, like doing time runs, not just going out and riding, because how do you know if you're going faster if you don't time it?
Yeah, you need to actually think about it as opposed to time it and just race the clock. You need to try and... a lot of things I try... One thing I tried to do a lot over the years, and more so lately, is just fully death grip. Don't even touch the brakes, because then you just don't have an urge to pull them. It might sound stupid, but a lot of people can't actually do it.
Yeah, but I trade with caution. There's a section that you hopefully can no break. But how long, it just come into my Instagram, how long after you signed the contract did you buy a new motorbike? on the drive home?
I signed the contract pretty much at the motocross track the one day. Rode my bike was like a dinosaur, and I was like, I'm not buying a new one because, not that I can't afford it, but it's something I don't need to buy. And then I got home spoke to the wife. "Oh, I think I should buy a new motocross bike now." "Yep, go on then." And then I was gone. Next day.
But that's a committed family man. That's cool that you make sure it's in the family budget. Danny, this has been epic. I look forward to the season on many accounts and seeing how you guys and how the team can go. To all the listeners, thanks to you for sending in questions. As I said, it will make me super stoked if you subscribe to Danny's YouTube channel. He still drops some content there. Does he not?
Bit quiet at the minute. It's a bit quiet at the minute.
But it'll get a little louder once you're on the new bike. And
exactly.
It will make me super stoked if you guys make sure you are following on the audio platforms and subscribed on YouTube. It'll do me a big solid. Until the next one, peace.